He claimed he had a work dinner. I called the restaurant to reserve a table. They said, "We don't have any corporate bookings tonight." I showed up anyway. He wasn't alone. Neither was I. I'm a 42-year-old woman from Naperville, Illinois. Married to my husband, Mark, for 17 years. We met in college, built a life together, and have 2 kids. Mark works as a regional director for a logistics firm in Chicago. His job often requires late nights, business trips, and client dinners. I never questioned it. One Thursday, Mark told me he had a work dinner at the Aviary, a high-end restaurant in Chicago. He said he'd be home late. I decided to surprise him by making a reservation for myself, thinking we could share a dessert or at least say hi. I called the restaurant. "Hi, I'd like to make a reservation for tonight." "Certainly. What time?" "7:30. Also, I heard there's a corporate dinner tonight." I was hoping to join my husband's table. The hostess paused. "I'm sorry, ma'am. We don't have any corporate bookings tonight." My stomach dropped. I thanked her, hung up, and sat in silence. I didn't confront him immediately. Instead, I decided to gather more information. I reached out to my friend Lisa, who worked in the same industry. She had access to certain databases and could discreetly check Mark's schedule. She confirmed there was no official dinner that night. I also noticed changes in Mark's behavior. He was more secretive with his phone, started going to the gym more frequently, and had new clothes I hadn't seen before. I needed a plan. I called my brother Jake, who lived in the city. I explained the situation and asked if he'd accompany me to the aviary that evening. He agreed without hesitation. We arrived at the aviary at 7:25 p.m. The hostess recognized my voice from earlier and gave me a sympathetic look. "Your table is ready, ma'am." As we were being led to our table, I scanned the room. There he was. Mark was seated at a corner table, laughing and holding hands with a woman I didn't recognize. She was younger, blonde, and dressed in a red dress that left little to the imagination. I felt a surge of emotions: anger, betrayal, sadness. Jake noticed and whispered, "Are you sure you want to do this?" I nodded. We approached their table. "Hi, Mark," I said calmly. He looked up, eyes wide, color draining from his face. "Rachel? What are you doing here?" "I could ask you the same." The woman looked confused. "Who's this?" "I'm his wife." She recoiled, pulling her hand away from Mark's. Jake stepped in. "We'll leave you two to talk." We sat down at Mark's table. He stammered, trying to explain. "It's not what it looks like." "Really?" "Because it looks like you're on a date." He sighed. "I didn't mean for you to find out this way." "How long?" I nodded, tears welling up. "Thank you for your honesty." I stood up, took a deep breath, and said, "We're done." I moved out that weekend, taking the kids with me. We stayed with my parents until I found a new place. Mark tried to contact me, apologizing, begging for forgiveness. I ignored his calls. I filed for divorce. The kids were hurt but resilient. We started therapy, and I focused on rebuilding our lives. I also started journaling, documenting my journey. It was therapeutic and helped me process the betrayal. I didn't seek revenge in the traditional sense. I didn't slash his tires or ruin his career. Instead, I thrived. I went back to school, earned a master's degree, and started my own preschool. I became financially independent, emotionally stronger, and more confident. Mark, on the other hand, lost his job due to the scandal. His mistress left him shortly after. He's alone now, living in a small apartment, trying to pick up the pieces. It's been a year since that night at the aviary. Things got messier than I expected. I had thought the worst part was over. I caught him. I left. I was rebuilding. But turns out, when someone feels like they've lost control of their life, they start grabbing at anything they can. Mark showed up at my new place 3 weeks after the divorce was finalized. I didn't give him the address. I guess one of the kids must have mentioned it, probably not even thinking. He knocked like a cop. Loud. Relentless. I didn't want to open the door, but my youngest, Jamie, peeked out the window and said, "Mom, Dad's here." So I opened it. He looked like shit. Thinner. Hair a mess. Like he hadn't slept. "I need to talk to you," he said. I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. "Say what you came to say," I said. "She's pregnant." I stared at him. "The woman from the restaurant?" I asked. He nodded. "She says it's mine." "I'm not even sure, but if it is, I don't know what to do." "You want advice?" I said. "Go get a paternity test. Be a father if it's yours. That's what you do. What you don't do is drag me back into your mess." He didn't like that. "You're cold, Rachel. You used to care. Now you're just—" I stopped caring the moment I saw you holding someone else's hand. I went inside, locked the door, but it wasn't over. The next day, I got a call from my kids' school. Mark had tried to pick them up early. No notice. No call. Just showed up. He wasn't on the emergency contact list anymore. I made sure of that when the divorce went through. Still, he caused a scene. Security had to escort him out. I texted him, told him if he pulled something like that again, I'd file for a restraining order. Then he did it again. At Jamie's soccer game that weekend. Showed up drunk. Shouting from the sidelines, yelling at the coach, telling Jamie to be a man. Jamie's only 10. I called the police. No hesitation this time. He was taken away in cuffs. The kids cried. I cried later when they weren't looking, not because I missed him, but because I had to explain why their dad was like this now. Lisa, my friend from before, the one who helped me check his schedule, she called me a few days after. "Rachel," she said, "you're not going to like this." She sent me a screenshot. Mark had been applying for jobs, and in at least 2 interviews, he claimed he was still married. That he'd taken time off to care for his wife during a mental breakdown. A mental breakdown. Me. I called one of the companies. Posed as an HR check-in from another office. They confirmed it. Yes, Mark said his wife's condition was difficult, but he was proud to support her. He was using me. Even after everything, he was trying to paint himself as some noble husband while making me look unstable. I called my lawyer. We started collecting statements. I didn't want revenge. I wanted peace. But peace didn't mean sitting back while he dragged my name through the dirt. Then the biggest twist hit. Jake, my brother, texted me one night. "Turn on the news. Channel 7. I did. There was Mark. In cuffs again. Accused of embezzlement. Not from his last job, but the one before. Years ago. Somehow no one noticed until now. They'd been doing audits. Everything finally caught up. $82,000 missing. They mentioned a woman involved. A former coworker. Guess who? Yeah, her. The blonde from the aviary. So now Mark had a court date, a possible child on the way, a wrecked career, and a very public mugshot. And me? I had more peace than I'd had in months, but I knew better than to relax too soon. The story didn't quiet down after Mark's arrest. In fact, things started unraveling even faster, like a ball of yarn rolling straight off a cliff. 3 days after the embezzlement news broke, I got a call from an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. The message was from a woman. Her voice was low, a little shaky, but calm. "Hi, Rachel. You don't know me. My name's Alina. I think we need to talk. It's about Mark. And the baby." My stomach turned. I waited a few minutes, called Lisa, told her everything, then called the number back. Alina answered on the first ring. "Hi, thank you for calling me back." I didn't know who else to go to. She said she was the woman from the restaurant. I didn't even recognize her name until she explained. She wasn't pregnant. She'd lied to keep Mark from leaving her. But once the embezzlement stuff hit, she started looking through his things. She found more than she expected. "I think he's been following you," she said. "Following me?" "Yes." "I found photos. Your new house. You dropping the kids at school. Even one from the grocery store. I sat down hard on the kitchen stool. My hand was shaking. Are you sure? I'm sure, she said. I'm scared of him. I'm done. I want to help you. Lisa helped me get a detective involved. We handed over the photos, the texts, the voice memos Alina still had from their fights. They opened a case. Said it wasn't just about embezzlement anymore. But while they were building that, I still had to live my life. Keep the kids calm. Keep my business running. Pretend things were fine. That's when something happened that nearly broke me. One of my preschool teachers, Tanya, called me in a panic one morning. There's a man parked outside the building, she said. He's been sitting in his car since 7 a.m. I think it's him. I drove there fast. Sure enough, it was Mark's car. But he wasn't alone. I saw a man sitting in the passenger seat. He looked out the window and made eye contact with me. Something about him felt off. He had a camera in his lap. I called the police right then. They arrived within 10 minutes. The men were questioned. The car was searched. Inside they found a drone, more photos, and what looked like surveillance notes. Turns out, Mark had hired a private investigator. But not for anything normal. He was trying to build a fake custody case against me. Gathering evidence that I was unstable, unfit, parading strange men around his children, as one note said. The man in the car? Not a licensed investigator. Just someone Mark met through a former coworker, paid under the table. The detective told me Mark might have been trying to either blackmail me or build a case to get full custody out of spite. Either way, it wasn't going to work. But it wasn't just me he tried to manipulate. Jake, my brother, started getting weird texts too. Messages saying, you think you know her, and she's hiding more than you think. Jake traced the number back to a burner phone. Same kind of burner that was found in Mark's car after the second arrest. He'd been trying to turn my own family against me. Then came the worst blow. Jamie found one of the photos, one of the ones from outside our house. He had been using my phone to look up something for school and saw it in a folder labeled evidence. He asked, Mom, why is there a picture of me getting on the bus? I didn't have an answer. Just tears. I hugged him, told him everything was going to be okay. The next morning, I filed for a restraining order. Not just against Mark, but also anyone acting on his behalf. I thought that would be the end of it. But then Alina called again. And what she said chilled me. He was recording our conversations. He has tapes. I think he might have one of you. Of me. Recorded. Without my knowledge. She didn't know what kind of recording. But she said she found one labeled Rachel Kitchen, 6:47 p.m. A time when I was home alone weeks ago. Now the case wasn't just about embezzlement or harassment. It was about stalking. They raided his apartment. Found hard drives. Labeled by time, date, even moods. One was called Rachel, angry. Another, Rachel, crying. He had been watching, listening, for months. Every time I thought I was ahead of it, I was already behind. This wasn't just a breakup. This was war. And it wasn't over. The court hearings dragged on for months. Mark stayed locked up while they pieced together his crimes. Fraud, harassment, illegal surveillance. And when the stalking charges were added, things turned darker. The evidence was overwhelming. Hundreds of hours of footage, notes, fake witness statements he tried to write and convince others to sign. One of them claimed I was an alcoholic who left my kids alone at night. Completely made up. But scary how detailed he got. Then came the worst part. The recording Alina had mentioned, the one labeled Rachel Kitchen, 6:47 p.m. It was a real recording. From a tiny device hidden in an air vent. The detective showed me the photo of it. I remember that night. I was cooking pasta, talking to Lisa on speakerphone. I was crying, saying how lost I felt, wondering if I'd ever feel safe again. And he had recorded it. Mark had been breaking into my home, not just watching. He'd been inside. That changed everything. The judge ordered a permanent protective order. He wouldn't be allowed within 500 yards of me or the kids. But I didn't sleep right for weeks. Jamie kept the lights on in his room for a month. One night, I heard a noise outside. Just a squirrel, probably. But I sat up for hours, holding my phone, ready to call the police again. Then, something unexpected happened. Alina came to court one day. She testified. Said Mark threatened her too, said he'd ruin her if she told me anything. She came clean about everything, even the embezzlement. She said he forced her to help, or he'd leak private videos he'd taken without her consent. Her voice cracked in the courtroom. But she wasn't innocent either. She had stolen money, lied, helped him track me. Still, she was brave for showing up. Mark glared at her like she betrayed him. But she didn't care. Neither did I. A few days later, Mark took a plea deal. He'd served 10 years minimum. No parole for 5. Probation after that for another 5 years. Full surrender of electronic devices. Lifetime restraining order. And he'd never see the kids again unless they chose to see him when they were adults. It wasn't enough. But it was something. The day the sentence was read, I stood up in court and said something I hadn't planned to. I should have seen it sooner. I ignored signs. I believed every lie. I chose comfort over truth. That was my mistake. And I paid for it. But now, I'm taking back my life. Mark didn't look at me. He just stared at the table in front of him. Weak. Small. Like everything had finally caught up to him. After court, Jake hugged me. Lisa cried. Alina left quietly. I haven't seen her since. The kids got older. They're doing better now. Jamie still gets nervous when someone walks behind us too close in public, but he's healing. I got therapy. Real therapy. For me. Not to fix a marriage. To fix myself. And then I did something I never thought I would. I sold the house where I caught him. Sold everything tied to him. Used the money to buy a smaller place across town. Clean slate. And this is what some people might call petty. But I call it closure. I took the last video he ever recorded of me, the one where I was crying in the kitchen. I had a copy the detective gave me for court. I took that video, put it on a flash drive, and mailed it to the prison. No note. No explanation. Just a reminder that I know what he did. And he'll never see me cry like that again. That version of me? She's gone. Now it's just me. And I'm still standing.